The personalities that matter with Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the music. My very special guest today, because of course, as I keep reminding you all, it's the 100th birthday of Talking Points, is a famous Bollywood actor who was born in Agra, the home of the Taj Mahal. The son of an Indian Air Force officer, Dalip Tahil has more than 100 Bollywood movies to his name, and he has been in British shows that have become iconic in the UK, both on BBC One and BBC Two. During his senior years at school, he won the Kendall Cup for the Best Actor in 2 consecutive years. He's internationally famous for starring as Madan Kumar in the A.R. Rahman Theatre musical Bombay Dreams, probably the most famous Indian musical ever to be shown in the UK. He performed over 500 shows through to 2002 at the Apollo Theatre, but he achieved national recognition across the UK when he won the role of Dan Ferrier in the iconic BBC One soap opera EastEnders in 2003, appearing in more than 60 episodes. In 2007, Dalip performed in the BBC Two miniseries Nuclear Secrets in the episode Terror Traders, playing Pakistani scientist Abdul Qadir Khan. He joins me this morning from Mumbai, where he is filming. Good morning, Dalip Tahil, or is it afternoon there?
A very, very good evening to you. It's evening in Mumbai.
Right.
And congratulations for your 100th show, Keith. It's a real pleasure to hear your voice, and it's wonderful to be with you. And my salams to all the audience and everyone for tuning in. I'm really happy to be on the show.
Thank you. Well, I wanted someone special for the 100th edition, and here you are. Now, tell us a bit about your childhood. You were born in Agra, and you were the son of an Indian officer. What was all that like?
Actually, what I remember of it, I was born in Agra, and then my father was posted there with the Indian Air Force. And as you know, in the armed forces, there's a lot of traveling. So soon after I was born in Agra, I believe we moved. And most of the time was in the Punjab, where my father was posted at the fighter stations. By then, I was in boarding school in Nainital, in Sherwood College, which was a lovely school, which is based quite close to the English private school system or the English education system. And we used to have 9 months of school and 3 months of holidays towards the end because it got very cold in Nainital and it snowed. So we came back in December, January and February. And I would basically have a great time. But after about 10 days, after them out of house and home, my mother would sort of get rid of me. She said, go do something. Just get out of the house. And in those days, my father had, being an officer in the Air Force, we had orderlies and there were staff cars. So I learned to drive when I was very little. I remember like 2 or 3 cushions being put under my backside. And I was learning to drive a Jeep.
Did you ever think of becoming an Indian officer? Was there any pressure on you? Because it's quite a top job in India, isn't it, to be an army officer? Was there pressure put on you to follow that career rather than acting?
Indeed, it is a top job. There was never any pressure on me, but because I spent so much time at the air bases and sitting in fighter aircraft, and the young officers would put the gun sights on for me. And my whole thing was fantasizing about being an Air Force pilot of my own accord, because if I ever wanted to fly, I wanted to fly fighter aircraft. And I thought that that's what I wanted to do for a very long time when I was between about 12 to 14 years old. That's really what I wanted to do. But obviously things shaped out to be quite different.
Indeed. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to the Bollywood star Dalip Tahil. When we come back after the break, I'm going to be talking to him specifically about his Bollywood career and his time on EastEnders. Join us after the break.
Keith Vaz on Talking Points. Leica.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio, the 100th edition of Talking Points. And I'm talking to my very special guest, the famous Bollywood actor Dalip Tahil. Dalip, you made your way to Mumbai. You have had multiple character roles in your Bollywood movies, over 100 that you've been in. If you wanted to pick one role that you really enjoyed, that was the signature, not quite the signature dish, but the signature appearance, which one would that be?
at the time, I wouldn't say it, but now, after all these years, it has to be actually a watershed movie for me, which was called Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak, in which I played a very, very strong and emotional father. And that was Amir Khan's first film, which made him a superstar. And that became an iconic cult kind of film. So that would certainly be one of the films that stand out in the early part of my career. And of course, later on, Bazigar, which turned out to be another one of those, marvels that stand the test of time. And that has also turned out to be an iconic film. That was with Shah Rukh Khan. And the legendary Indian actress Rakhi, and Kajol and Shilpa, and it was just an amazing film. And you can talk about it now, 25 and 30 years later, but at the time, of course, nobody had any idea that they would be so successful.
Now, you came over to Britain, and apart from acting in all these roles, the theatre role that you're very famous for is, of course, the role of Madan Kumar in Bombay Dreams. This was a big first for Indian cinema and acting, that there should be a show in the West End. And you managed to do it. You became very, very famous. What was it like doing Bombay Dreams? Did you ever anticipate that it was going to be quite the success it was?
Well, Bombay Dreams was, firstly, I was Madan Kumar, as I said in the show. I'm so good they named me twice. Anyway, Keith, Bombay Dreams was for me one of the most important things that ever happened in my career. And I'll tell you why. My career began in the Bombay Theatre doing the musicals like Godspell and Man of La Mancha and in fact Evita. And from there I got into Hindi films, and I never ever dreamt that there'd come a day, first of all, that an Indian style drama or a drama talking about India, Bollywood kind of drama, would ever make it to the West End in a proper show, in a form of a musical. So that was huge first. And so for me, it was a dream come true to actually translate what I was doing in Mumbai earlier on in my career into a professional show at the Victoria West End. And that too, with the legendary Andrew Lloyd Webber, Lord Webber, who in this case was the producer. Yeah. Obviously, everyone in the world knows the legendary composer and musician he is. And then A.R. Rahman, which was like
amazing.
It was like a double whammy.
Yep.
And of course, I auditioned for it. And to get the part, and for me, it was a huge challenge and very exciting, because we were singing with a live orchestra, and the orchestra was really some of the top musicians in the world. And for me, who had been in the movies and actually was in an area where, the discipline parameters are a bit different, working in Hindi films, to say the least. And to come from there straight into the musical theatre in the UK and to be in that groove of doing shows, and sometimes 2 shows a day, and continue to do them at a professional level over a period of 9 months, for me, it was a huge triumph personally. And working in Bombay Dreams was an absolute joy. There wasn't a night when I performed where I wasn't feeling absolutely wonderful.
And I saw you in that show, and you seemed to enjoy it immensely. But then you went on to even bigger success. You were chosen and you acted in EastEnders. You became a favourite during a time when they didn't really have Asian role models on British soaps. You came, you saw, you conquered. Did you enjoy your time in Albert Square? Compare it to Bombay Dreams. If you had it again, which would you go and do? Obviously, you'd like to do both, but which really excited you the most, EastEnders or Bombay Dreams?
Well, that's a really difficult question, Keith, because EastEnders for me was a very new experience, because I'm sorry to say this, but at the time I came to the UK from Mumbai, I wasn't really familiar with EastEnders. Yes, I'd heard of it. I'd heard of this fantastic show that had been on for many, many years, and it was fantastic, and it was, it really was in the hearts and minds of the UK audience. But that was television. It was a fantastic experience. I loved working with the BBC. I loved what was happening. And I was told at that time that actually we were the first Asian family to actually appear in the show EastEnders. So that singularly became a very exciting thing to be able to present this Indian family to a mainstream British audience. And my experience in EastEnders was absolutely amazing. I mean, from the little things like working in Bombay, as I said, has a different set of challenges. But the BBC used to actually get our script 10 and 12 days beforehand, which was, I mean, if that happened on a Bombay set at the time when I was in the film industry, it would be an absolute miracle.
Indeed. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio, talking to my very special guest, the Bollywood actor Dileep Tahil. When we come back, I'm going to be talking politics because he's actually joined the BJP, and I'm going to ask him whether this happened after his visit to Leicester. Join us after the break.
Leica Radio. The personalities that matter with Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio on Talking Points. I'm talking to the Bollywood star Dileep Tahil. Dileep, I remember you coming to Leicester during one of the election campaigns, and basically you closed the road. When people realised that you were on the Green Lane Road with me, they just came out and they started taking photographs. This was the age before selfies.
Okay, you're too kind. I mean,
no, it's true.
They came for you.
No, they came for you, and I want to know, was that experience coming to Leicester, is that what made you join the BJP?
Okay, that's wonderful. I would join politics if I got the kind of dosa that you got from me in Leicester on Belgrave Road. It is one of the best dosa and chutney and sambar I've ever had in a very, very long time. So, I said, if this is what it is to join politics, then well, fine, I'll join the BJP.
But does it, is there a history of doing this? Obviously, you've had actors who've become members of parliament, like Amitabh and others. Do you get stick for being in a political party, or does Bollywood really not care?
That's a very interesting question. I think Bollywood, well, they do care because, there are a lot of actors, a few very prominent actors who become members of parliament. From my point of view, I have no such ambition. The reason you could say that I'm associated with the BJP is, of course, it has to do a lot with their policies on Swachh Bharat and Swasth Bharat, which basically mean, a drive for cleanliness and a drive for national health, which I have always been very, very keen to see that, that area in India is really, really addressed, and investments are made in national health that the situation and the country needs, and Swachh Bharat, which is keep India clean. So, there have been these few aspects of the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's initiatives that initially attracted me to the BJP and keep me there now, because I feel that there has been a lot of progress in that direction. And I think that it's very important that these aspects of life are sort of looked at from the government point of view and a government involvement, and more importantly, from individuals. And that is why I like to help in whichever way I can to create an awareness really for some of the initiatives.
And one of the things that you were involved in, not necessarily connected with the BJP, is that you were part of the beach cleanup drive, which was hosted by the Dada Saab International Film Festival. Do you think it's important to give something back to the community, as you did with that cleanup drive and with the other work that you do?
Well, absolutely. I think people who have an influence on the audience, such as actors and sports people who have the privilege of having an audience that look up to them, I think it's very important to give back in the sense that make people aware of social issues. Like cleanliness. If you came to that beach in Versova and Mumbai, I'm telling you, Keith, it was shocking. The amount of plastic, the amount of waste. It is impossible to even believe that there's any future of a healthy life with this kind of abuse of our resources and people just throwing stuff into the sea. And I've committed 2 hours a month to Mr. Afroz Shah, who's actually the main person who's initiated the beach cleanups. So actually, I'm quite honored that he's called me to participate in this. And for me, it's a huge privilege to be there.
Finally, you're creating something of a dynasty in Bollywood because your son Dhruv has gone into acting. Did you encourage this? Did you put him off? I was thinking of my own son, whose birthday it was this week. He's now 27, and by the age of 27, I'd fought 2 elections. But he's not interested in politics. He's got other careers to follow, and he's got another career path. Did you find with your son it was easy to get him into films, or is this a decision that he took?
Well, it's a decision he took, and he's sort of been inclined to it. What I made him aware was that, what I made him aware of about the profession was, yes, there is a lot of glamour, and there's also lots of other things that are very attractive on the surface, but there's no substitute for really hard work. And that is when the awakening comes to all young actors when they realize that, the glamour part of it is, well, maybe 1 or 2%, and the rest is sheer grind. So, I mean, you have really, you can't ask someone to become an actor as such. I mean, it has to come from within you. And if it doesn't, then I say don't be an actor. No matter whose son you are, whose relative you are, it'll never work unless you have that absolute urge to want to become an actor and you're mad enough to do it.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to interviewing Dhruv on the programme and asking him his views on you at some later date.
Ah.
In the meantime, Dalip Tahil, it's been a real pleasure interviewing you, talking to you again. We always ask our special guests to choose a song that means something special to them and to dedicate it to someone special. Which song would you like to choose, and who would you like to dedicate it to?
It's not a very bubbly song, but it's a beautiful song. It is composed by Hemant Kumar and even sung by him, and it's picturized on Wahida Rahman, the great legendary Indian leading lady Wahida Rahman and Biswajit. And it's called Ye Nayan Dare Dare.
Wonderful.
Which means the glances that are shy, scared, and Ye Nayan. It's really difficult to translate it in English. But Ye Nayan Dare Dare. It's an old song, but it's one of Hemant Kumar's most beautiful songs. And I love it. I dedicate it to all the listeners and anyone who likes these kind of romantic songs.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure the listeners have liked...
And to you, Keith, a big thank you from my side and from Dhrup's side for having me on your show. I truly appreciate it, and I wish you every success.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dalip. Thank you for joining us today. And let's hear Dalip Tahil's song.
तुझसे हंसी तेरा प्यार तू जाने ना ये नयन डरे डरे ये जान भरे भरे जरा पीने दो ये नयन डरे डरे प्यार में है जीवन की खुशी देती है खुशी कई गम भी प्यार में है जीवन की खुशी देती है खुशी